Hey everybody, Ryan Hodge, the host of SBB TV, and today we have a special guest. May not be quite the business owner that we usually bring in, but I like to talk to the movers and shakers in the world, people who are doing good things. Number one, that's how we all get better. What they always say to me is iron sharpens iron. Well, anyway, this is episode 77, like I said, and today we're chatting with Syron Smith, uh, who is a candidate for the mayor of Gary, Indiana. And if you are a resident of Gary, if you know anything about Gary, Indiana, the city, my hometown, this is very important to me. Mainly because, even the Black history part of Gary was the first considered main city, or the first Black city, major Black city with the Black mayor. Now, if you're from Cleveland, I'm sure you're probably saying that your mayor was number one. But we're saying that our mayor was number one. But what I think is, because it depends on which book you read, which internet entry you read, I think what happened is it was whoever got inaugurated, whoever swore in first. That's the only thing, because they were both elected in the same year, 1968. So, and ours is Richard Hatcher. But we've had a succession of things, but our city, it tends to be looking like it's going down, down, down. But we got Syron, or Sy as he goes by, who's not necessarily a Gary resident, like a lot of Gary residents probably would prefer. And he's slightly an outsider. He's, he's like our uncle in Chicago, but that's where he's from. And I'm going to let him talk to you guys about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Sy, how you doing today?
Hey man, you just turned me on to this new technology, so I can't wait to use it going forward. But thanks for doing the show, man, and having me on. I'm doing excellent right now.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna tell you what I did first of all, so that you guys know. When I saw that Sy was running, and I've tried to talk to all the candidates, so I've reached out to them all. If you've watched our YouTube videos, you see videos of different mayors, we or candidates, and we've talked to just about all of them. But one of the things I also do is I like to do a little research on the candidates, and I went to, what's that website again? Is it friendsofsysmith.com, right?
That's it. Yes, sir.
And you'll see that in the description below. And I watched all these videos that he had done, because I think video is probably one of the best tools to get your word out, because it's so much, it makes it easy. You can watch and then you can hit the share button, or just, if you're watching this, you can like it, you can share it to your friends. And it's more than just a picture, or more than just a long status, but you can actually listen to a person, you can watch them, you can look at their eyes in video. And that's why I like to do these interviews, because we may not be in the same spot, but I know you can see my eyes, and when he talks, you can see his eyes. And my grandfather and my father always told me you can tell a lot about a man looking in his eyes.
Yes, sir.
Now don't be staring too long, because then like but Sy, what's okay, so because I'm gonna dive right in this. One of my biggest concerns is, how did you get to today? What was that one point where you said, you know what? First of all, how did you get to Gary, Indiana?
Okay, so my background, I was born January 10, 1975, 40 years old, married, father of four, grew up in the projects of Cabrini Green and Jane Addams and Inglewood in Chicago. Total 14 years in the Navy. I've always been passionate about why blacks were killing each other in Cabrini Green. So in 1981, I asked my mom, the answer she gave me wasn't good. I prayed to God to let me grow up and do something about it. So I was 6 years old. Fast forward in the 1990s in America, crack cocaine had black killing at a skyrocketed rate. 2,200 murdered in New York, Chicago, 990 some murders. It was crazy, the killing that was happening. Are we still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, good. The killing that was happening was astronomical. I ended up in that same arena with the drugs and the gangs, and I joined the Air Force. They took too long to take me away. So I said, Navy, if you can get me out of here, get me out of here. So on October 13th, 1993, I joined and left with the U.S. Navy. Had a chance to travel around the world of Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, Africa, and that made me so focused and determined that I built something that allowed me to make certain that we can deal with this homicide problem that's been facing our community for a long time. In my studies in the 90s, I looked at America, and what I saw was there was two cities that blacks should have had a successful model, and that was Detroit, Michigan, and Gary, Indiana. Because of our population and the percentage of blacks there, it was no reason we didn't have a successful city, a model of a large population that we can be proud of and build off of. So I would say since the 90s, I've been very passionate about Detroit and Gary. So I used to drive to Detroit and Gary just to meet people and keep building that network of people that go through things in those cities all the time. So I created this organization, and it was focused on stopping the killing. It started on November 20th, 94, and it was centered around the U.S. Navy model of everyone on the ship has a job. No one is on that ship without a role to play. And so my vision was to make certain that in all the 20 cities that we're in, especially Detroit and Gary, that we go door to door, block to block, and we get to know everyone and find out if they into technology, business, science, legal, nursing, construction, and we link them with people who's doing the same thing. I think that's the solution to like 90% of what we're going through, is when you can link people based on their passion. What happens if we get the lawyers together, the children that want to be lawyers and the professional lawyers, and then they're doing mock trials? What we're really doing is allowing that professional who's probably stable to be in the life of that child who's probably not stable. So when that child experiences a hardship or something, they got a professional that can step in the gap and help them during that season. And so that's what we've been working on. That's why I'm running for mayor, because I think the 78,000 people we have here in Gary has to be structured in a way that we can be successful. I tell people all the time right now, even if a major firm wanted to come here, are we in position to strategically work for them, build jobs with them? Probably not, because we haven't been organized in a way that I'm envisioning us being able to do it. So that's why I'm running for mayor of Gary. I want to see us so organized that we can help everybody out.
So, you know, I don't necessarily like to talk about what somebody hasn't done. Even in my case, I like to look at, you know, how can I improve on things? But when you made the move to come from Chicago, right, to Gary, how, I mean, you just packed up your bags and said, I'm moving to Gary, Indiana?
No, so here's what we have. This is what's built. 60653 is in Chicago. That's the they call it the Bronzeville neighborhood in Chicago. That zip code is Little Gary, Indiana. I did that back in 1994. I took 20 zip codes in Chicago and linked it to 20 cities with the purpose of making that little whatever that city is. So like Inglewood is Little New York City in Chicago. Now, the purpose of that linkage is, for me, you will not be able to fix one city by itself. And the studies have shown cities trying to stop the killing. What I believe has to happen, you have to do the exchange, like a foreign exchange. You got to take one from here and put them there, and vice versa. Because when you're away from your family and friends, you can focus. I learned that on a naval ship. I worked directly for the captain, and people were so busy when we were in port with wife issues, husband issues, got to go here, got to go there. He would take the ship and just pull us right away from the pier. So everyone is forced to be on the ship and can focus and concentrate. And spiritually, what that showed me is that you sometimes have to get away from all the distractions so that your mind can get focused. And so that's what I really believe. When I decided to come here and I moved to 4104 Madison in 2003, because I had previously before that, I was already here with the 60653 network back and forth to Gary. So the quick answer to your question is we've been here since 1994 with our visiting and building relationships, but I physically moved over here in 2003 to anchor what I was already doing for all those years leading up to 2003. And I met with Mayor Scott King and tried to present this this vision of 20 different career clubs helping organize Gary.
Because I'm a firm believer in that, and I really do believe that. Now, we know that Gary has a lot bigger issues, but I do believe that a lot of the issues, which is, you know, I just told some people the other day that, you know, playing Little League baseball, I was able to save somebody's life, you know, 20 years later, you know, and they were like, what? A guy who I grew up with playing baseball was in a heated exchange with a guy, and I know this guy, and it was about to turn violent. But when I walked up, and it was nighttime, but when I caught my vision and I was able to see who it was, because I heard the commotion, and I just walked up. I was like, "Hey, man, what's going on, man? I ain't seen you in a long time, right?" And I hadn't. And he looked, and he was like, "Ryan?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Man, I'm about to." And I was like, "Look, man, let's not go there." And I actually knew both people, and I kind of was able to work as a mediator. But I'm thinking, what if I never would have played Little League baseball? What if I hadn't, developed, that relationship? That would have been another, maybe a murder or another assault and battery, another criminal crime statistic added to our city. And that's why I'm so passionate about youth sports. Mainly me, because I played baseball and I know what it's done for me. But baseball, and it's done some other things for me, and we talked about that earlier. Whereas, even when I was in the Air Force, baseball helped me when I was in the Air Force. I played on the base softball team, I played on the hospital team, and I also, was well connected by playing baseball, because I ended up, coaching, the top brass of the base, 2 kids. Yep. But so as far as So I like that idea. I think it is about community, because that's what we had when we were kids. Me and my buddy was joking the other day how, when I moved away from, I was born and raised, I was on the west side as a young kid, and I think 6th grade, it was 6th grade, I moved to the east side, but I had a bike, right? So that allowed me to stay with my friends on the west side, because when I got out of school on the weekends, I can get on my bike. I didn't have to wait for my parents. I just say, "Hey, I'm going over such and such's house," and and ride 30 blocks.
Yep.
And that's not something that you see, or that's not something that I think most parents, responsible parents, is even going for this time of year. I mean, right. This day and age. Right. So how do we rebuild that? Because I don't think these kids are able. They're not growing up as kids like we were. They're not having. It's stressful.
And what I tell people, Ryan, we at a day and age, back then we lived, worked, and worshiped in the neighborhood. So we knew each other. The integrity was there. The social fabric was strong back then. But now we in this global society where people are here one day, gone the next. And so we got to be more strategic and deliberate about the relationships now. And so you have a situation where some people don't want to know their neighbor on the same block. And the reason they don't want to know it, because they fear that when they go to the store, they're going to be breaking in their house and so forth. So I get that. But here's the solution for that. We have to create a new climate, a new environment that's more pragmatic. So, for instance, whose birthday is on the block? So we know this is October. So if we got 50 people on the block, where are all the October birthdays? And let's celebrate that once a month. By doing that, the cake and ice cream coming together, we able to find out that sister across the street is a nurse, and the lady down the street son wanted to be a nurse. So that's our reason for them two to interact once a month. As mayor, my role is to bring those professionals together, but also have them tap into the grant money that's out here, and let's build strategic alliances where we can do workshops. And I love the mock trials we do for the children that want to be lawyers. They get to practice competing debate skills, and the topics are entertaining. So now you got a reason to be at the Genesis Convention Center to hear West Side Debate Club going against, Roosevelt's. And the topic is something that's relevant to us in this day and age, but you got a reason for judges to be there, a reason for the lawyers to be there to train them. When we get done with that, now we have Gary mock trial versus Chicago mock trial. So now we're uniting people together, all based around helping each other out. So that's how I view how important that is for us to get this organization going block by block.
So you believe as the community is the foundation, huh?
Think about it. Who pay our taxes? Who pay the taxes? Everything is community, but it's relationships. And I'm just saying, if we're not strategic in our relationships, I can tell you the attitude now is individualism, all about me and mine. And that's dangerous for people who are struggling. We got 29,000 people living in poverty here, more than Iraq. Our poverty rate is higher than the country of Iraq. So we can't afford to be isolated. That's the worst thing you can do. If your finger's cold and you go keep them separated, you better bind them together so that you stay warm. And that's what we're not doing. We doing this, and that's dangerous for an isolated group that's struggling.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I saw something the other day. I shared this video, and it was of fire ants in South Carolina right now with the flooding and whatnot that they're going through. And
Right.
the fire ants all band together, and they were all like on top of each other and by legs and arms to all of them to stay alive. They would have died solo, but because they band together, they form this big thing to where they can float together, you know, to safety. And I am honestly a big believer in that. So, you know, you're speaking my language, you know, but do you think that the current mayor or, you know, or the mayors of the past, do you think that's something that they didn't focus on? Or
here's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan. Our government is dysfunctional right now. It's been like that. I'm 40, right? You got a two-party system. You need that third option. You know what I mean? You can't, you know, you got one extreme and then you got the other one that take you for granted. I've been telling people, you know, you got to be real careful if you say you're a Democrat versus you vote democratically. There's a difference. When you're a member of some group, then you have a say-so in what happens with that group. So it's like the woman claiming to be, you know, that's my man. Did he claim you? Because if so, then in that relationship, it's some give and take. And what we have in Gary and in Chicago, the Democratic Party has taken for granted the people. So they don't have to do no voter registration because I know I got my 5,000 guaranteed people who go vote just because they believe in the party. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous when you talk about the murders here happening, the suicides, the people who are giving up. Because no one's engaging them. No one's trying to find out where they at in their life and what we can do to help them. And so, yeah, I would say the current mayor is doing what she know to do. And I'm saying that's not enough. I'm saying you deserve more. I'm saying that they fired the CEO of Twitter. They fired the CEO of Groupon and Starwood Hotels, not for not being good, but because they had slow growth. Slow growth is what Gary has experienced, and that's why I think that she has to be replaced. And I'm saying that I have the relationships in the business community, my background 20 years in community organizing people. So as your new mayor, I will have everyone involved based on what God gave them: technology, business, science, nursing, health, education, you name it. I'm that leader to make sure that we have everyone at the table.
so okay, so and okay, so I mean, you got me, but at the same time, you know, I hear things like there's no money, or, you know, we can't do this because there's no money. You know, there's never any money, and I'm gonna give you a something that I did not talk to you about at all.
Yeah.
And and this has bothered me because you never know what happens in life, right? You know, you don't know. Like, I watched, you forgot Steve Jobs got fired from Apple too, the company that he founded. But they had to bring him back. He's like, wait a minute, you know, dude. But you know what he said? He said that was the best thing that ever happened to him because it allowed him to come back and refocus. And he went on and do some other things, and then he came back. But in 2008, I took a job in Vernon Hills at CDW, one of the largest technology reseller in the United States, right? And I was, you know, they wanted my medical experience, so I was selling in technology into medical facilities, and my territory was South Carolina to West Virginia, and plus my great sales skills. You know, I just am. But and one of the things that I did though while I was there was, you know, I've always done this. I'm gonna try to learn everything I can and meet people, because you just never know when someone can help you. So, and if I have something for someone, you know, I'm gonna share it, whether it's gonna come back with compensation or not, right? Because, you know, I look at certain things of today's dollars and future dollars, because it's all relationships. So I went and I reached out to the account manager for the city of Gary, because they do sell into municipalities, and they do, you know, we also sell into the government, and, you know, and it, like I said, it's the largest school systems. So I reached out to the account manager that was on the city of Gary's account, and also reached out to the account manager that was on the Gary School Board account, or Gary School Corporation, and they both said we don't even call them no more. And I said, why not? He's like, it's a waste of time. He was like, they don't never have any money, and they're not never trying to do anything to increase the city. This is what these account managers told me.
I can see that.
And I'm sorry, CDW, if you're mad, but this is they also said, you know, it just is what it is. And we know that the account manager is going to call people who got the money, and they want to improve, because I believe, and this is what I was doing was at a time when they was trying to push, when they were really pushing electronic medical records, because what happened in with Hurricane Katrina was it brought something to eyesight that people didn't see previously. It was the fact that what happens if we have a natural disaster with all these paper files, you know, because a lot of people lost their medical histories. Yeah. And, you know, and so what I learned by working in technology was sometimes you have to spend money to make even more money. So I know if I get a speeding ticket in Gary, that I can't just go online like if I get one somewhere else, and I can't go and pay that. But the city is not spending the money to upgrade the systems, because I'm thinking, I wonder how much more revenue could they generate. I mean, I'm not saying turn it into Ferguson where they're bankrolling the whole city off of the residents, but I am saying that makes a whole lot of sense, especially in the year 2005, when most people are, you know, the first thing a person says, what's your email address or what's your website? Right. Yeah. You know, they're not even asking for your phone number no more. You know what I mean? People, guys meeting women saying, hey, what's your Facebook? Mm-hmm. You know, yeah. But so is that something that you're into, or into the technology side of things? You don't have a flip phone, do you, by the way?
That's a negative. No. I had the Edge 6, I might say, but yeah. No. But Ryan, let me tell you my leadership style. I believe that we have everything we need. That's a mentality that I have. So you won't hear me talk about we don't have. Now, when I do speak in long term, like degrees. There's a tougher degree and it go down to a lesser degree. But here's my philosophy. The problem with this being a Democratic city, and you got a Democratic mayor, is no reason why we haven't had Washington do more for Gary. How can we justify rebuilding schools in Afghanistan and Iraq that we bombed and then not build up locally in Gary? You need a mayor that's going to challenge and say, this is my tax dollars going to build over there when I got women walking past vacant buildings being drugged and them raped and killed. Unacceptable. We protect Americans first, then we go and do charity abroad. You're not hearing that. And I'm telling you right now, I'm that assertive type of leader that's really a common sense approach. You take care of home first. And we need to do that. We can't say it's no money and we giving millions of dollars. We dropping bombs and then going to rebuild what we just bombed. And you telling me it's no money? That doesn't work. So there is money.
Because they've been telling the firemen haven't had a raise since Scott King was in office, from my understanding. And the police department, they're in shambles too. They're losing police officers every day. And our crime rate, because I do know that Karen campaigned on this broken windows approach, which anybody with any type of common sense, you know, knew that just was that was a failed policy that never worked. It was just some consultant that was going around selling cities on this, something that does not work.
But Ryan, it does work. It worked to build a prison system, which helps put money in the private shareholders. So it works. Remember, there's winners and losers in life. There's some people who's benefiting from that. Now, it's not funny, but you get what I'm saying. There are people who benefit from the exploitation of our community and our people.
So what about these firemen? I mean, in these police officers, because that's like these guys, you know, I look at a fire, you know, these guys are running into the fire when everybody's trying to run out of the fire. And I mean, you know, and it's something that bothered me, and it still does. Like, you know, the day that they voted down like the raise for a fireman, they gave, you know, somebody in City Hall a raise, and that like a $30,000 a year raise. And I know a lot of people have talked about that. You know, I've seen it on Facebook. It's been some heavy conversations. And I thought that was kind of weird. You know, it's like, why wouldn't you find a way to keep your people? And a lot of these firemen, they're born and raised in Gary, Indiana. Right. It's like, you know, these are people who have stuck around, and it's, you know, everywhere around the city, they're making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more that they could easily go to. But what do? They rather stay home and protect the city that raised them.
You know, Ryan, again, As mayor, if the Gary voters allow me to be mayor, I will only use the title honorable because of my 14-year naval background. I believe there's 3 groups that's honorable: police officers, firefighters, and military. Each of them raise their right hand and swear to die for other people. That's honorable. Being a politician and spending your tax dollars is not honorable. That's their job, you know. So my point to you, we got to take care of that group. Our veterans are not being taken care of either, and they put their life on the line, and they're back home. So you got to find a way, right? Now, here's one of the things that really bothers me. We spent $2.6 million for the city court. In Chicago, Cook County has the court. They don't have a Chicago court. So that's one of the things we got to look at. Could that money be used elsewhere? Let Lake County be, you know, managing that court building. Why does Gary have to foot the bill for that? So that's an outside the box proposal to look at. I'm not making that promise, but it's something to look at. But the police and firefighters should be compensated. We need to look at also how to use innovative ways of compensating them. It might not be cash. It might be real estate. We have a lot of real estate here, and that may be a form of compensation if done the right way. So that's going in my mind as well. The key, what I want the police and firefighters to know is I believe you're honorable. I respect you for what you do every second. And so I'm going to find a way to make sure we take care of you for that angle, as well as our veterans. Can't make all the promises because I'm not looking at the books that they have. I know we joked about that. You got 3 sets of books. The real books tell you what's really going on. But what I will tell you from an honesty and integrity standpoint, we're going to communicate, make sure you know what my vision and plan is and the phased approach to get there.
And I think that they would appreciate that. The other thing is, since you brought up Cook County, I know, and that's Cook County, that's basically Chicago. One of the things that that's different, one of the main things is different, is the mayor has control of the school system. Am I correct in my thinking? So I know he has a president, but in Indiana and Gary, they're separate.
It should be. No, the mayor appoints the CEO, but you got the board there. But the bottom line, they had their own budget that comes from the property taxes. So, you know.
Right. So, but okay. So I guess my point in this was, and I get that, and you're right. You know, I believe that as well. I don't know, and this is something I don't know, is like how much inclusion is the mayor of Gary, for instance, in the Gary School Corporation. Because as we're steadily losing residents, and it's my age people, it's your age people, you know, us in our, you know, 35, 40 years old with school age kids, the first thing that we're doing, we're looking to move into a city is how to schools. You know, right. I tell people, my mortgage industry background, the first thing on appraisal is school district, parks, you know, proximity to shopping, you know, highways. Those things, it's a reason why it's on the first page of a home appraisal, because that's like the most important thing. Because I have some friends, and I had lunch with a classmate of mine, maybe a year ago, or it could have been longer. But he was in a dilemma, and let me tell you, and I felt for his dilemma. He hit me up because of my mortgage experience. He wanted to know what I thought. But when he built his house in a specific area, Gary, over off, you know, I won't say because I don't want to call him out, but when he built his house, there was an elementary school, there was a junior high school, and a high school. Because what him and his wife were looking at was where their kids are going to go to school. So when they built this house, they built it in this area for that reason. Like 5 years later, there's not an elementary school, a junior high school, or a high school in that area. And then even in the school systems, they're getting failing grades and whatnot. So they've even opted to send their kids outside the city and pay.
Yeah. Here's what has to happen. And I tell people this all the time. America made the decision during the Reagan years that they're going to put more money in prisons than in education. So we saw an explosion of private prisons all over America, like 5,200 counties in rural America got prisons. And the way they built their prisons was through urban America. So that's what really happened from a governmental standpoint. And by doing that, that meant that we didn't invest in education for the young people. Especially our males, they need extracurricular to keep them tied into the academic part. But when you defund all that stuff, now they don't have a reason to go. I tell people the purpose of education is AASN, acquiring additional skills and networking. That's the reason you go to school, is to acquire skills, and you got to build your network. There are some people they get in trouble. They make a phone call because they got that network. They know that judge, they know that attorney, and they met them in school. And so that's why you go to school, black men, young black men. You got to acquire these additional skills, and you got to build your network. Your network is strong, Ryan. My network is strong, but you had to be out there and involved to do it. Sitting at home in Delaney or Dory Miller, you're not building your network. And that's why you go to school. So we got to have a leader that recognizes that even though you're not in charge of the school system, you got to have a way of influencing them to know why to go to school, influence them to make sure they know why they need to be getting this education. And it's not to go to work a 9 to 5 and punch a clock. It's to acquire your skills so eventually you can start your own business. You need to be around people that's innovative and think outside the box. And so that's that approach. But again, I think it starts with having a leader who's going to say we have to fund education, but we got to have the proper management, because mismanaging resources, the state not going to want to give you anything when you can't manage what you have. And I think that's one of the big challenges we're going to have for Gary School Corporation, is the misallocation of resources. But I believe we can turn that around. It all starts with the right leader in place, and then I think the rest of the stuff will fall in line.
Okay, now there's great answer to that. I think that there's a lot of people who say, you know, people are not going to come out and vote. And we've seen that in previous elections, that, you know, 13% of the registered voters of Gary, Indiana, you know, are the only ones that came out and voted. So 87% of the people stayed home, which bodes well for the incumbent.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I don't want to know your strategy or your tricks, but there's a class of people. They say that, hey, only the older people are coming out, but what about us? I mean, are you talking to?
That's my base, and so you got, and I will share this. So you got different markets of Gary. You got the Gary veterans who've been here and never left. You got the Gary that's we call them expats. They left and came back, so they saw something. They saw better. Said, "No, we deserve better." You got the ones from Chicago that migrated over and stayed. You got the church community. You got the business community that live here, and business community that come in. So each one of them got perspectives, right? And each one of them have a reason to vote. And so you got to tap into each one of them constituencies. What I tell everyone with the way we're approaching it, I believe 87% of the people aren't involved with no political party at all. They said, forget all of you guys, because I don't see the benefit of being a part of you at all. The 13% is the ones that are probably on the Democratic side and going to stay there just because of the history. So my philosophy has been, let's target the 87%, the disenfranchised people who say, forget all of you guys. Let's get as many of them active. And then we go to that 13% who are guaranteed voters, and we say, look at your conditions. Now, are they taking you for granted? Are they really working for your vote, or are they just counting on you to vote? They should have to work and earn it each and every quarter. Like, and then those we can take from that 13%. Let's just say if it's 8%, that's 8% that stays, but we got the other 5 now to merge on with the 87 that we went after. So that's been our campaign strategy, is making sure we target the ones who feel disenfranchised, but we also try and link them with the guaranteed 13% and make sure that they know you are being taken for granted. Friends, don't let friends live like this in Gary. You should have sidewalks. You shouldn't have bushes protrude now that you got to walk in the street and get hit by a car. So whatever your friendship is with the administration, that's got to be on the back burner, and we got to think about our safety first. And that's with a leader that's going to be out there cutting it himself if need be. But we got to have safe sidewalks. We got to have lighting. It's so dark in some of these places. I'm fearful of our ladies navigating to and from. Unacceptable. And friends, don't let friends live like this.
Is that why you picked the slogan, friends aside?
Friendship aside, we got business to take care of.
Right. You know what? And I've worked for several of my friends because I have built a network. So, and it's funny because my girl jokes sometimes. She's like, for you to get a job, a lot of times all you gotta do is make a phone call like, hey, you know what? I'm interested in coming, and they like, oh man, and that's how it is but I built networks, and I want to circle back on that education thing, because that's what, like, my daughter told me a long time ago she wasn't going to college, right? And and I, as a parent, I didn't be like, oh yeah, you are. I kind of was like, okay, all right, if that's what you don't want to do, then that's fine. But I knew that what I would do was over the time from that point, because she said that she wanted to own her own business, she wasn't going to college. And I trust me, as a business owner, that made music to my ears. As a kid that's 9 years old, that you ask her what does she want for her birthday, and she tells you a website. You know what I mean? And
Awesome.
But my whole point to that whole thing was, I've told her, I don't care what you do, but I want you to go to school because I believe that the networking and the connections that you make while you're in school are invaluable. The connections that I made when I was in the Air Force are invaluable. And some of those in 6 weeks or 2 months, I've made lifetime friendships. There's guys I know right now I probably haven't talked to in 15 years, but if I was, hard up for some money, I needed $500, I guarantee you within 3 to 5 phone calls, I would have it. If a couple of them have to get together and give me 100 here, it's just one of those situations. I think it's about the way you treat people, and they wouldn't expect anything back from me. They would say, hey, you know what? I know he'll do it for us.
There you go. That's my point. So
and I want to follow up also too. You also said something about community. Now I happened to grow up in a community when we made that move to the east side, which was my grandmother's home because she had gotten sick, so we moved in to help her. And that community and the block club was probably, I don't know about other block clubs, but I know that one was strong. I know it was our precinct committeeman. Let me just tell you, after my parents left, I took over that house, right? And I was working, 10 to 7. I would probably get home sometimes at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And when it was snowing, my snow would be plowed. And they would shovel the walkway for me. And I'm the youngest one on the block. And you know how that made me feel? Is like, what wouldn't I do for these guys?
That's right.
These are my neighbors. And and that's another thing that, and I will double back on that too, as well, is I believe you need to know your neighbors. Whereas people think, oh, they're going to break in my house. They don't necessarily have people. I believe that people don't necessarily break into your house. Most times, the majority of the time, they've been inside or they know you or this, that, and the other. But I think that, and I'll give you 2 examples. My house got broken into in 2008 when I took that job at CDW, and they took everything in it. If I didn't know that was my house, I would have thought I was evicted, for real. When I walked through with the police officers, and how did I find out my house had been broken into? My neighbor called me.
There you go.
And she said, Ryan, I think somebody's in your house, right? And I'm like, she said, now that I'm talking to you, and it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and she said, now that I'm talking to you, I know it's not you, right? And I said, call the police, I'm on my way. And I came in from Chicago in a rush, whatever. And they had a guy. They caught the guy. Well, they caught a guy. The guy wasn't. I think the guy wasn't the guy that broke into the house. Not all the stuff that they stole. It was impossible. But it was just. So when you talk about that, that's very important, because even though he was probably in there cleaning up stuff what they didn't take. Exactly. But or he knew. But it was just my neighbor called me to tell me that somebody was in my house. And I think that's very, very, very important. And I think, I always look at it when I leave the house, if I know my neighbors, they're my eyes and ears when I'm gone. So I don't know if a lot of people understand that, but I want to know my neighbors on each side and, the front and the back, because they're your eyes and ears. So that's another thing I want to ask you about is growth. As you know, we got a grocery store in Gary. We have a grocery store in Gary. I guess that's the proper word, not we got. But I saw a video maybe a year ago that some girls in some girls in elementary school did in Gary, and they called Gary a food desert. And that video ended up winning them like a $25,000 grant or something like that.
At Samsung.
Huh?
At Samsung. Right.
Yeah. Now, what's your plan to change that? I know that you talked about business connections and things like that. because why doesn't Gary have a major department store? Why doesn't Gary have a new car lot? Where if I wanted to buy a new car, I have to travel outside the area, which every time I'm thinking about that, I'm giving my money to a whole nother city. Yep. In helping helping this business and their tax base, and probably the salespeople as well. They probably live in that city, so so we're losing out on jobs as well. Mm-hmm. What's your plan for bringing in more jobs?
Well, Ryan, I wrote to Home Depot, Starbucks, AMC Theaters, Drury Lane Hotels, Hyatt Hotels. Heard back from Home Depot, and they asked me, they said, we review every year where we potentially could open up a Home Depot. They said, we're closed for this year, but where would you even want a Home Depot at next year when we open up the process for that? And I was caught off guard. I was like, wow, I haven't thought about that. I just know we need one, So I said, let me talk to the neighbors and we'll figure that out. Starbucks, they thanked me for the letter, said that I guess they was already in talks with the administration, and that's fine too. But I took the proactive approach of reaching out to them. But in my letter to them, I asked them, how can Hobart and with 28,000 people and Maryville with 35,000 people have South Lake Mall with all of these businesses, and Gary with 79,000 people not have one? I said, does it have anything to do with race? And so I just put it out there, because when you really look at what's happening, there's a strategic reason. People sit in the boardroom and make decisions, and the 78,000 people in Gary spend money. So who made the decision that we got to leave Gary to spend the money? And it probably the decision was made in the boardroom when people was making those decisions. So I just wanted to make them aware that looks pretty bad in America, that these businesses are right on the outskirts. That's saying that we don't trust the leadership. We're not going to invest in you, but you can come to us. So I want all of corporate America to know that it says something about all of us that we're not investing in an American city that has a global standing. It's buildings in overseas in Iraq, Afghanistan, China standing because of the steel that was made off Lake Michigan. So this is a global city that should be respected. And I think it speaks about everybody if we don't invest in Gary. And we need a leader executive that's going to sell that and challenge people. Look, y'all, how can we let this be? No Walmart, no new. I got to go to Maryville to make a color copy at midnight because there's no Kinko's. It should push everyone from a humanity standpoint that we allowing this extraction of resources to take place. So that's my mindset when it comes to growth in businesses. Glen Park is our garden district. Terrytown is our lawyers district. So we already carving out the neighborhoods in Gary where we're going to concentrate that new manufacturing and service.
And something is I've talked to my friends pretty often about this, how I've been around this world. I've been in the military, but I also move around a little bit, with business meetings. And everywhere I go, everywhere I've been in the United States, I've met somebody from Gary. Or when I say I'm from Gary, Indiana, they're like, "Oh, my cousin, he's right. The mayor, or he's the councilman, or he's this big time business owner, or he's this, or he's that." So that tells me that plus I know I'm from Gary, so I know what we're able to do. Yes. It's like, do these companies are they not presenting themselves right? Because the city, because a company, I don't necessarily like to say this a lot, but my little brother is a DA in Manhattan. He's from Gary. It's
a lot of success.
It's so much success. And I like what you said, because we have to bring those people back. These are people who look like them, who grew up like them, who grew up in the same areas as them, who have went on to do some good things in life. And I think that, a person can speak to them in a different language, and hell, the current mayor is a
success story.
Is a success story in itself.
Yeah, big time. We got to make Broadway like it was, right? I can see the Walk of Fame, like you just said, those who made it from Gary with their own star on Broadway. And we run that baby from downtown to all the way to Maryville. And we got the stars of who made it from here. So all the children and the children's children can come and learn their history. Who said we can't do that?
Right, because when I did count 90 abandoned, I think it was like 90 abandoned businesses. And I did this one day from 5th to 53rd. And I only counted the west side of the street. So good numbers say that if I doubled that, right, that's about 180 businesses that are vacant that used to be something at some point. So what would you do? Oh, and then I've talked to other business owners that have businesses in Maryville and Griffith and Cherville and Dyer, and they say, hey, their main thing is the crime, and I wouldn't move back there. You know, right. I wouldn't put my business there, and
you gotta feel safe, Ryan. Why would I put myself in harm's way? Not only I took an economic risk starting the business, but then I'm gonna take a life death wish and go and get killed. So of course we got to make sure that they feel safe, that they are safe. That's number one. The way I approach that is, who do we have right now that has a mom and pop operation happening in their house? How do we coach them up, make sure that they in position to move from inside the house with their business to a storefront? And then when the storefronts, how do we build them up to where they can get actual, a plant? And I think it all hinges around making sure that we know them and we find out what their business model looks like. We have some excellent business coaches with relationships. So once they coach you up and get you online, then they can link you to funders. One of the benefits of my background is I do have a lot of connections in the business world with people who have additional resources ready to invest. The challenge for me is being an outsider. I don't want that perception that this is a takeover. So I believe in outside investors, but local control. So community benefits agreements are critical for anybody doing business that's not from the community. What are the agreements? Are we going to make sure that the children right now in Delaney and Dory Miller who need winter coats have them? So if you're a business coming here doing business with the city in the community benefits agreement, we need to have that worked out. Don't donate to me as mayor. And that's a pledge. I don't want these corporations' money. I want their money committed to the zip codes to fund winter coats, Christmas gifts, things of that nature for the people of those zip codes. That's where the benefits should go, not to me.
You know, you brought up a very valuable point. Like earlier, you talked about Bronzeville in Chicago, and I'm pretty familiar. I get around a little bit with Bronzeville, and I get around with what's been going on over there, and I know how they're growing it. And they have like some strong CDCs. Just the other day, I was on Grant Street and I was talking to a business owner on Grant Street, and I said, and we were talking, and it was another guy who walked in and kind of joined the conversation. He has like a clothing store. He had it in Chicago. I think he's in the middle of relocating it or whatever. And I said, man, you should see if there's any CDCs, community development centers. And they'll let you know, like I hear like Lake Street and Miller, it's supposed to be like a little art district or whatever, and they're building it up, and I'm like, CDCs are important because I know Bronzeville works with one, and they're doing really well with saying, hey, I come to them with a vision, like you just said, and said, this is what I want to do. And they say, hey, this right here might be the perfect location for you because This is going to be here in 6 months. This is going to be here in 3 months. Well, the person told me that the CDC, like on Grant Street, it's like defunct. They don't do anything. And I'm like, that's probably why there's no businesses there. I mean, I'm just saying. So
I'm not surprised, but yeah.
it just kind of threw me for a little bit. It made me think about that. Also, I was, and this is something I'm gonna throw out there just because I can, provided you're elected, but I think that, that we should have some incubators. Some business incubators, whether they're city owned or some private investors, because that does help for a person like me who works from home, right? If I every now and then I have business meetings, so I can't even meet a person. I mean, I can meet a person in Gary, but typically I got to take the person if they want to go meet, have a good cup of coffee. I got to, go to Portage for Starbucks or Maryville or another place or this, that, and the other. Or I can just take them to the gas station in Gary and get gas station coffee, right? Or maybe I just bring some from my K cup from home. It's like, hey man, I just made you a cup. I know, but right. I'm being funny there. But I think that, to have an incubator where I can come in and have business meetings and, it's technology. Or I can even have an office space there and say, hey, you know what? We got to share facts, internet and this, that, and the other. I think a lot of cities have that. And also I'm seeing a lot of, a lot of these tech companies like Google's partnering with a lot of people, and Microsoft and Dell, and they're partnering, and they're running, doing tech programs and grants, and where they're taking kids from the city, because what more can it be from a kid that's born and raised in a city to say, hey, we need this, and with their ideas, because if we're not farming those ideas when they're young, then, that was one of the things I did with my daughter. And I know I talk about my daughter a lot. I think she's the greatest daughter ever, but
that's right.
but one of the things that me and her mom had talked about early on was, creativity, and not trying to ruin that early on, and instead of saying you can't do that, figuring out a way that it can happen. Because I think that, I read a book, I think it was all I need to know in life I learned in kindergarten, right? And it talked about that, how kindergarten, they have all these creative ideas, but by the time they're in the 3rd or 4th grade, they didn't know so much that their creativity is gone. And that's something that I never wanted to lose. And so, but when a child comes to me and say, I want to do this, I want to be like, hey, you know what? Let's connect them with this person, because like you already saying that, and say, because now this person can help farm that ideal into something big, because we don't know if the next billionaire is coming out of Gary, Indiana. It's coming out of the Gary schools. Yeah. And I do know that corporations, a lot of times they look at, skilled labor forces, educational level of certain areas. And I don't really know the statistics behind that as far as what Gary, Indiana is. And I know that when I started working at the casino, when they opened up the casinos in Gary, in East Chicago and Hammond, they trained the residents. The Gary casinos had like a 60%, you had to be 60%, 60% of the employees had to be residents. East Chicago did the same thing. So did Hammond, and so did Michigan City. But they taught me dice. I was in dice, for a class for 6 weeks, how to play craps, how to deal craps. Dude, I made $50,000 dealing craps in my last year.
Ryan, here's the bottom line, man, and that's what's so disappointing. Black men in America doesn't have a role to play as we used to, right? When you want someone, you invest in them. Right now, if they didn't have, like, you can create a market for agriculture, but there's no need to create a market because someone's filling that role already, and it's not the African American people. So when they say we won't do a certain job, it's not that we won't do it. It's the fact that you're going to have to pay for it. And if you really wanted to, then guess what? You will invest in them. And that's what they did. When they started training you, that was them investing in you so that you can fulfill the need they had to make money. That's what it boiled down to. They're going to invest in you so you can help them grow their business and suit their pockets. If we, our legislators, do the right thing, we will look at the Whole Foods, who just pledged about 2 weeks ago to stop using prison labor. That's what we got to look at. There are corporations who benefit from using our prison labor. So why should we give them any skills? We can just lock them up and let them work for us for pennies on the dollar, and it's all good. So we, defund education, send them to rural America, let them be counted in those census so we can build roads and highways in rural America at the expense of urban America, and just let them starve. Gary is being starved. That is no way around it. It's the biggest black eye in Lake County and in Indiana. How do you have a city with 57 square miles be this blighted? What does that say about everybody in leadership? Come on, what's the plan? Who are we calling out? Someone's at fault here. Do we have a political code of silence? We talk about the street code of silence. Is there a political code of silence?
Well, yeah, and it's funny you say that, because I've thought about this. I said, you can't have people who care, and you know what? And I'm gonna tell you something. I ran into the incumbent, to Karen's chief of staff, and I said, you know what? And I get this to you too. So if you're the mayor, I'm telling you, I'm gonna get this to you. I said, listen, I don't know a lot of the stuff that's being done. I don't know if there's anything being done. I don't know if it's being done or not being done. I just don't know. I said, but in my field, in the technology side of things, when we're working on something, we create a roadmap. And you know what? When we got a roadmap, and and even businesses that's not in the technology field, they have a roadmap. Okay, you guys asked for this. This is coming, but it's coming in 2017. You know, when you're building when you go to a new construction site, I know it's not very many new construction sites in Gary, but when I, and I'm driving down Route 6 in Portage and I see that they're building something and I pull up close to it, it has a sign on it saying that it's going to be completed by such.
Yeah.
The same thing. And that helps me know that, they're building this and this is what this is going to be. So now the anticipation is being built. And it also shows that the city is growing.
Right.
And that's so I don't know if that was like a statement or a question or whatever.
But what you just said about the growing part and the investment, this is something big. You have literally some of our candidates are putting their signs up on Broadway in our business corridor on abandoned property that's wide open. And so that means when I take the hammer to nail my sign on that vacant property, I'm ignoring the fact that I should secure that property so no woman is dragged in there. We just had a 61-year-old found dead right here on 40th, 4 blocks away from my office. I mean, you got candidate signs up on the vacant structure, and they could have just put a board up and secured it so no one is in there. So that tells you the type of administration they're going to run, and that's an administration that was by any means necessary versus a structure that is organized that's going to make certain that we hold people accountable and get the right things done in the right way,
And you know what? You said that. And now that's my next question. Where are your signs at?
They are in people's yards. We have about 800 signs in people's yards. And that means that family is having a debate if the husband might say yes, the wife say no, they talk about it. And if the sign disappears, then we know to kind of convince them that we are the person. But we're not doing the whole just putting them anywhere. We're being very pragmatic about it. We want to talk to the neighbors. We have over 1,200 more signs to get out there, and that's with dialogue. We're not just plopping them up in vacant lots. At least not now, anyway. We'll wait till we get closer to the election and see.
Okay. And it's one thing for like construction people. Like they're fighting over, and this is something like people in the trades or skills of city contracts, right? And I know that the city depends on people to do things. I know we have X amount of employees, but then they depend on construction companies to help build and this, that, and the other to bring their ideas into fruition. Mm-hmm. But Gary is a majority Black city. I want to say it's 90%, 85%. I don't know the exact details of it, but I just know that
84 from what I
that's probably about right. So I hear things like minority contracts, right? City contracts. Mm-hmm. And it always gets me because I've been asking this question and nobody's been answering. So maybe you can tell me if I'm crazy for asking this or not. So a minority contract or minority holdback for contracts, which means if people don't know, if you're watching this, in my vision, I could be wrong, says that, hey, we got something that we're working on and we're going to hold 15% of these contracts, or we're going to give 20% of the contracts to, say, when they say minority, to Black people. Mm-hmm. But minority to me means the minority of, if you're dealing with an ethnicity, it means the minority in that community or in that city. So what I don't understand is how come when Gary is 84% Black, mm-hmm. I don't understand how when I drive past something, there's very few Black people out there working, and because we're waiting to give them the minority holdbacks when we should be the majority, and it should be reversed. Right. Am I correct in my thinking? I don't know.
No. You're right. You're not.
Because it works like that in Detroit too. It's like Detroit is a majority Black city, so anybody outside of the Blacks should get the majority of the contracts, and other ethnicities should get the least of the contracts.
Here's how people should think of it from a quantitative standpoint. The people, Gary, and it might not be those who are unemployed, pay the taxes. So the money should circulate within the city. If you're bringing in Hobart, Lake Station, and Portage, when they pay their taxes outside Lake County taxes, it's for their city. So how sustainable are you taking the Gary tax dollars but giving it to outsiders who's paying taxes there? you can't sustain that over time. So that's a broken business model to have. You know what I mean? So from that standpoint, the dollar should circulate within the city so that you have sustainability and you can grow from that. That doesn't mean you can't use outsiders, but if you do tap into outsiders, there has to be CBAs, community benefits agreements. So if you're a landscaper from Hobart and you come in here, and I know in Delaney, I'm gonna have 90 kids with no winter coats, the CBA got to state, you're going to make this amount of money, 10% of that got to come here. And if people think that's extortion or that's wrong, then you just got to look at the struggle that's happening when you got 37% of the population in poverty. There can't be no exploiting when you got people living in poverty, meaning that they got to make a decision between medicine and food, or where they make a decision between getting to work and quitting a job. So that's real. And I would challenge people in college counties to feel like we shouldn't put that demand, like that's going to stifle growth and innovation. No, that's the humane thing to do. You can't have people out here hungry when you're making money and leaving. I question your humanity if you don't care about people like that you would just come in, make money and leave. So that's, I think we got to have a leader to highlight that and say, no, this is about caring about the next man.
And I know that you don't have a Harvard degree, or at least I don't think.
Right.
I mean, and I tell a lot of people this, I mean, I don't know, some agree with me, some don't, but I also don't have a Harvard degree. Right. But I bet you I can stand up to any Harvard degree person and go toe to toe, with just common sense approach to a lot of things, because a lot of things just make sense. It's basics. Right. My grandfather as a kid, he's always said, Ryan, common sense is not common. And I had no clue what the heck he was talking about but now I get it.
Now in the military, Ryan, they say that because you got different ethnicities, it's not common to we agree on it or talk about it,
So, but I guess I want to kind of wrap this up. I know we went a little bit longer than we expected, but this was a great chat. I pretty much covered all the things that I wanted. But let me ask you, say you are elected, best case scenario, you're elected. Right. I'll always say best case scenario, worst case scenario, because some of the people would be the worst case scenario. But in your case, it is the best case scenario. Day one, what does it look like to you? Or the first 30 days, what does it look like? I mean, what are you doing?
Now, can I go back? So you don't take office until the new year. November 3rd, we'll know. If God allows me to win November 3rd, I'm going to immediately begin the work of making sure.
Wait. So there's another election?
No, taking off.
No, listen to what I'm saying. So Karen had an election, it was an election earlier this year, was in May or something like that. Because a lot of people don't realize that it's another election.
Oh, heck yeah. November 3rd, Tuesday, November 3rd, 24 days from now, there's another election. Big time.
Now, can people vote early this year again? Can they still
do it? It's going on right now until October 30th. Friday, October 30th is the last day to early vote. Genesis Convention Center, 9 to 3.
Okay.
Please do not pull a straight ticket. Don't let them say give you a straight ticket. When you do straight ticket, that means that you're blindly giving people your power. They need to work for it. Ask for the individual ticket. That way you can vote for Cy Smith Independent or any of the other independent candidates. Do not do a straight ticket unless they have earned your vote. So I tell people, please don't give away your power by doing the straight ticket.
Okay, right, exactly. Do you know if they're teaching election and how to vote in schools or doing mock? Because when I was in high school, we did at Roosevelt. I went to the best high school in Gary, so I just want to let you know that. It's really the only high school in Gary, but that's another story and another debate.
I've been here, people are right, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
Perception is reality, right?
It is, and they actually taught us how to vote. They actually had mock booths. So, but I think that's something that's very important, and I got discouraged a few times where I just didn't vote. I'm just like, it's just not going to change things. So there's a lot of people I know feel like that. And matter of fact, I had a girl tell me that the other day that she votes whoever her daddy says to vote for. Mm-hmm. And she was like my age, and I was just, but she was like, other than that, I won't even vote. And she said, and still, it's just, I'd be like.
But Ryan, why should they? Honestly, why should I vote when I don't trust you? the trust level with politicians is so low. That's why in the national stage, you got two people leading in the polls that never been in political office, because they tired of the Congress who has no term limits and they can sit there and play with my tax dollars. And so I understand when people tell me I ain't vote for none of y'all. I get that. What I want to do is let you get to know me, look me in the eyes, and see how serious I am about fighting for our people, and say, make me and everyone else earn this vote. Don't give it away. Don't. And so that's my whole thing. We just went into 21st Century High School. We went to Velt. We went to Westside, and we had our 20-year-old on the team registered. We did voter registration. We did a presentation. They did excellent with it. And you know, some of them, again, they spirit so broken, they don't value it yet, but we sowed the seed. And that's all you can do is sow the seed, let someone else add sunlight and water to it. But we did that. And I doubt if the incumbent did that, because if you the incumbent, you don't want to work hard. That's not smart. You just want to keep your guaranteed voters happy and let it ride. So 4 years, 3 years, no voter registration drives, just stick with who I have. And that's sad for democracy when we do that.
Right, they're Democrats, and that's what it is. I mean, because, you know, I'm finding myself, you know, with a lot of stuff. I just don't want to necessarily be associated with a lot of things, because I'm not finding a lot of things that are 100 me. And then I start thinking about me as a youth. In high school, I didn't really have a main clique, for instance, right? I went from group to group to group to group to group because I just like people, and I felt everybody was different. It felt like if I wanted to hang out with the dudes that play sports, that's what I did. I went and hung out with my other fellow athletes. If I wanted to hang out with the intellectuals, I went and hung out in their corner. And it was funny because I was all of those people. You know what I mean? It's, you know, heck, even the ones that was the thugs. I mean, if we're going to get down, I can get, you know, but it just is what it is. And I appreciate you. And this is serious business. It is serious business. And I'm gonna tell you, I was highly skeptical. I'm like, who is this guy? Right. You know, here's another guy coming from the outside, you know, that for whatever reason. And so what I did is, and I'm gonna let anybody know who's watching, I went to friendsofcysmith.com and I watched the videos. And I said, okay, I like some of the things he's saying. And I wrote down little notes and some little, you know, some things that I heard. And I said, I want to ask about it. I want to hear, you know, what he has to say, you know, and I think that's important. And I think as it gets out, you know, you do need to make your own decision. You know, you do need to go watch this video, watch the other numerous videos that Cy has, and just get an opinion, you know, because I think that's what voting does. I mean, we don't know. I don't know if you get in office, if you win, and you worse than what we've ever had. I don't know.
No one knows.
But I do know this, right. You know, sometimes when you want change, you're going to have to make a change. And, you know, you can't do things the same way. And I'm just saying, people, I'm not saying that, you know, this is your guy. He's saying this is your guy. And you got to take him at face value. Where's your office located, and how can people reach you to get their questions answered?
Yep. 4425 Broadway. So we right there in Glen Park, right down the street from Family Dollar, right there. And a phone number is 219-588-1779. It is 219-588-1779. We have 108 meetings every month. We have 108 meetings every month. You can get on a conference call and listen in on these meetings. And the purpose of these meetings, Ryan, you're going to love it, because one of them on the third Monday is technology. So that's you. We should put your picture next to it. The purpose of these meetings is to bring professionals to the people aspiring to do this. So Gary will be the mecca of the mentoring and technology and business and science and all of that. And these 108 meetings are the vehicle for us to use to get people taking classes all over Gary.
You know what? I'm definitely gonna check out those meetings. You know, and it just popped in my head real quick. You know, when I think about, you know, when we were talking about jobs and big business and things like that, you know, a lot of times they look at things and I think they think wrong. They don't know because they're not on. They don't have boots on the ground, so they're not here. They don't hear things. They're looking like I always talk about. Hey, do you got an accounting background?
No, business management. Yeah,
okay.
I'm an office manager at the accounting firm.
Okay. All right. Because I know that, I know accountants, when they look at things, when they look at downsizing and they say, hey, we're going to have to lay off 15% of our thing, they're not looking at color. They're looking at, at black and white. They're looking at, black words on white paper. Right. Yep. And so it's up to, and this is what, and I'll give you a prime example. This is what I can say when I was a loan officer, originator, and it was some cases that wouldn't always make sense as far as the benefit of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. But from talking to the client, now when I talk to the underwriters, I have to tell the underwriters, hey, I know it's not saving them a crap load of money on a monthly basis, but let me tell you what they're trying to do. This lady's trying to send her child to school. She's trying to do this. We're doing this or doing this. She needs the new car. They're starting a business, whatever it may be, because we have to provide the color commentary. You can watch a sporting event on TV with the sound down, but when you turn it up, you find out, the little intricate details about certain players. And that's what, I think that our mayor needs to have to push this city forward, because this city, we have everything. We got highways and rail and water and air,
Ryan, even tourism, Ryan, this the missed opportunity. Chicago has so many festivals at Grant. Every festival, it should be our tourism bureau down there extracting them to come visit Gary's tourism, learn about the history, learn about the place that got the buildings where you live back overseas standing, do the eye still. We should be tapping into the Taste of Chicago, getting them people to stay here and tour us, the Greek Fest, all them festivals. That should mean money to Chicago. You 25 minutes away. So we should be getting into that money. That
was something that I saw in one of your videos when you talked about some of these homes and using them as summer homes or investment properties, to where people can come in instead of paying, downtown Chicago prices. You're 25 minutes away. I'm gonna tell you, I'm an economics dude, and that made perfect sense to me.
It makes sense. It's not right. They got to know it's a leader in place that they got confidence in, and that money will flow. I think it's money all at the doorsteps of Gary. But with the right leader, they ready to bring it in.
It has to be right. Yeah, because I noticed. Yeah. So anything else that you wanna tell our viewers and future viewers?
Please know, you guys, check Google and YouTube. You're gonna see 300 some videos out there with history, because that's the key. Look at a person's history and that'll tell you where they're going. I lost 6 elections in Illinois, and it wasn't because of me. It was because of a corrupt party that plays games, with the legal system and how they knock your name off the ballot. But I didn't quit. And I think that says something about integrity and not giving up. And so that's why I want people to know, win or lose, we're going to build this 108 meeting system here, because Gary is too important to blacks around the world for us not to have that model here. If you guys elect me, it rapidly changes. If we're not elected, I'm going to methodically keep going door to door, meeting people and getting them to come on board. So we choose in 24 days if we want rapid change or this slow, methodical change.
24 days to election. And you can early vote now.
Yes.
At the Genesis Center from 9 to what?
9 to 3, and we will give you a ride. I had 3 vans patrolling around. We give you a ride even if you're not voting for us, because we care about the process. Yeah, that process is huge. And so yeah. Okay. Well, hey man, this was informative. I think a lot of people would get the information that they need if they watch it all the way through. I know it ain't Love and Hip Hop or Real Housewives of Atlanta, or maybe it is Love and Hip Hop Gary or Real Housewives of Gary. No, but on a serious tip, this is why I provide these shows. This is why I started to do this, and I did it for the business owners, because that was the thought process, was because a business owner, it could be one little nugget that inspires another business owner. They hear one little thing that says, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. Because I think too many times we look at competition and, we're afraid to give a person or tell a person a certain thing about a certain something. It was a guy, a photographer, and I won't name his city because people probably know, but
he was another photographer came to him and asked him where to get his little covers that he put, his pictures in after you take him at the club. And he said, Google. And I'm watching this thread and I said, seriously, dude, tell him. Why would you make him go through this? What, are you afraid he's going to be your competition? No, man, he's coming to you because he looks at you as an authority figure, as an expert.
I get that every day. I love what you're doing with the businesses, and we do have to do that. We got 7 zip codes in Gary. So the photographer in all 7 zip codes is what we're looking for, and it is a battle to make sure that they don't feel threatened by each other. The market is too big for us to be worried about fighting over kibbles and bits. We got to get organized, and let's have the film festival where we promoting it at the larger scale to boost the whole industry, and your personality will win them over to you. So let's go after the bigger market for all of these different industries and not be fighting amongst a few customers.
Right. I'm like, the world way too big, man. I said, you know what? And I told him, I said, man, I wouldn't help you. I can't help you because you know what? Because I make connect. I'm like, oh boy, in 18 when he's like, hey, I need a favor or whatever. I'm calling a favor from something way back. I'll help you, but I don't need any compensation. I might need something from you down the line, to help something. That's how I think. I'm like, to me, it's like, when people get mad at me because I ask questions, and I know that why they get asked, because they get mad because they probably don't have the answer. Same thing with you. If I'd asked you a question, you didn't give me a thorough answer or it didn't pass the sniff test, I'm coming back at you with the same question because I'm like, it's no different from your wife. She gonna do the same thing. She know you not coming home at you usually home at 10 o'clock and it's 1 o'clock and you walk in talking about yeah. It is. She probably let it slide the first couple of times. You're like, something ain't working here.
Right.
And that's what we have when we run these elections. We, in these elections and you get these people in office and it's like, okay, now I'm here. Now what do I do? And I understand that it's so much more that you find out once you become elected, but I think communication in everything is the key. And talking to people, instead of being on every talk show talking about this and that, that really doesn't matter to the average person. Yeah. Because I think that people want to be safe when they lay their heads down. I think they don't want to worry about somebody coming through their windows. I think that's the first and foremost. And then their kids' education, if they have kids, is because those people, and then those kids, as they go through the system, they got to have something to come back to, because like you said, you call them patriots or something like that.
Expats, yeah.
Expats. Those people they'll come back. Yeah. We all did. You went to the Navy, you came back to Chicago.
There you go.
I went to the Air Force, I came back to Northwest Indiana. Now we can bring those skill sets that we learned away to help do something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But Ryan, the future is so beautiful. I'm on cloud 9 because win or lose, change is coming. It's just a matter of is it rapid or not. But I'm excited because of what Gary is getting ready to do around the world again. So that's my view. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Give your website, how they can reach you, Facebook, and all that stuff. And yep. So www.friendsofsysmith.com. That's the website. On the website are the videos, but you can also go to YouTube and just type in my name, Syron Smith, and you're gonna see a lot of videos. On Facebook, it's Sy Smith, just SY Smith on Facebook. Twitter, it's Friends of Sy Smith. The phone number is 219-588-1779. That's 219-588-1779. If you are in need of support now, and this has nothing to do with me being elected, call me. We have people in every zip code ready to help, and that help is from anything from logistics to even finances. We do what we can to aid and assist our people because we love people, and that's what we do all the time. I always tell people, God is the source, but God works through people, so we do our part to help.
Cool, man. Hey, I appreciate you, bro. Whatever happens, win, lose, we gonna shake hands and we're gonna look at where we can make this work.
Wait. Now I know I got you on the third Monday because that's tech, and you just brought me up to speed with the tech piece. So that'll be it. We can help more people and Gary get on the tech side on that third Monday from our side.
Man, I've talked to people all over the world like this, man. And you know what? in London and this, that, and the other. You know, my daughter was like, I want to go to London. I was like, I got some friends in London.
Yeah.
She's like, what? I'm like, yeah. They said, come on.
This is what Malcolm X and Dr. King didn't have. We can do something that they couldn't even do because of this technology piece. We can rapidly organize all over through this technology, and I think we go do it.
Yeah, and that's what I saw. You know, I remember I got mad. I ain't gonna say I got mad. It was a couple people who didn't appreciate exactly what we had done for them, and so they went. You know how people do? They go behind the back and they start talking. And I kind of got up. You know, I was like, man, this kind of messed up. I helped this person, and now they badmouthing me, right? And I would say for a couple weeks, and then somebody, an older guy, pulled me to the side and say, "What the heck is your problem, dude? You got X amount of people. You got access. You of all people got access to the whole entire world. You worried about 2 people?
Good.
2 people? Those 2 people had exactly the same amount of networks and connections that you have. They still don't equal all the millions of the population in the world." I said, you know what, you're right.
Good.
That made so much sense. Yeah. You know, I'm like, yeah, I guess you got a point. But I'm gonna wrap this up. Hey, y'all, I want to thank y'all for tuning in to episode 77 with Syron Smith. Hey, how is it gonna be on the ballot? Is it gonna be Cy Smith or Syron?
Yeah, all in there. Syron.
Okay, Syron Cy Smith. Now I know that sometimes I'll see do you know where you're gonna be at on the ballot? You're gonna be 1, 2, 3?
Not yet. They haven't given us my punch numbers yet, but it's early voting now. So
okay, cool. Well, hey, Syron Cy Smith.
Right. No Charles Smith. So I know it's 2 Smiths. Cy is on your side. That's the motto. Cy is on your side. So not the Charles Smith. Cy Smith. Cy is on your side.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Charles. And again, friends of CySmith.com. And if you want to reach out to him to get some questions answered, you can stop into his office at 4425 Broadway.
Yep.
Or you can give him a call at 219-588-1779. Are there specific hours as far as the office?
Yeah, it rotates, but with the 108 meetings, it's all over the place. For the most part, you come up there, we got the upstairs neighbor, we'll work it out. But I would say call me just so I can be physically here myself. So you can come and someone to be here, but I want to be here. I want to meet everyone with a question so I can answer it. 219-588-1779. Cy Smith. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. All right, man. I salute you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Stay on.